Hello students, today we are going to study about the administrative structure of the British in India. Now before we start, let us recall what we learnt in the previous classes. As we are all going to do the concluding part, as this today's video will be the concluding part of the chapter, right? So it is better if we recall from the beginning in a very precise way to understand today's topic. So, we studied about the advent of the companies. Now, these companies, when they came over here in India, then they had lot of rivalries which was generated among the companies. It was also resulted in different types of different wars among the company people. Now later Britishers was left. Later the Britishers were left with to do the trading over here in India. As we had already talked that there were many companies who had come here in India to trade, but the company which was more powerful in respect to army, that were the most powerful. So Britishers were left with in India to trade. Now since East India Company was very powerful, so it started interfering in the internal matters of the rulers. Now the war which was going on, it resulted the conflict which was going on, it also resulted in many of the conflicts with the English people. Now since the rulers were not as powerful as East India Company, so it started losing its territory in the hands of the Britishers. The expansion policies was adopted by the Britishers, we have already discussed that subsidiary alliance. What were the methodologies which they had adopted? Policies, you can say, subsidiary alliance, or the direct war, or doctrine of lapse. So these were the policies which were adopted by the English East India Company to annex the territory. Now after the territories were annexed and brought under the control of East India Company, now they needed a system of administration through which it could hold over India. So they needed now some administrative structure. So today we are going to study about the administrative structure. Under this topic we will be knowing about their administrative system, then judiciary, and the army, what type of army they kept. So here we start with the administrative structure. Now the British government, they had already realized that how to earn the maximum of the profit and how to strengthen the hold over the India, and what was required. So for that they needed a system of administration, okay, which should be very efficient enough. It should be an efficient system of administration. So for that they divided their territory into administrative units called as presidencies. Now these presidencies, there were 3 presidencies mainly if you talk about, then it was Bengal, Madras, and Bombay. So and each presidency was ruled by a governor. Now the supreme head of the administration was the Governor General. This was a post, okay, Governor General, this was the post. So in this way we come to know that how this administrative structure, the British government divided into territories, and then the supreme head of the administration was the Governor General. Now the first Governor General was the British India, you can say, was Warren Hastings. So Warren Hastings, here is an image for Warren Hastings, you can see on the screen, and he became the first Governor General of British India. Now the districts, it was divided into presidencies. Why this division was done? So that it would be comfortable for them to administer. Now the district was looked after by the collector, and he was responsible for collecting the revenue and to maintain the law and order. So this was very important, that the law and order had to be maintained. So the collector was responsible, and he was the looking after the entire district. He supervised also the day to day the working of the district administration. Okay, so next we will know that the civil services. The civil services, it was started by Lord Cornwallis, and he managed the Indian territories. And after 1853, these civil servants were selected through a competitive examination held in London. Now also these UPSCs and the state level PSC examination is also there. So these civil services there are many competitions running now also. So in 1853, these civil servants were selected through a competitive examination which was held in London. Now prior to this, the company directors, it was all the civil servants, they were nominated. Nominated means they did not have to fight any competition. Now this Satyendra Nath Tagore, you can see the image. Satyendra Nath Tagore, he was the brother of Ravindranath Tagore, and he was the first Indian to join the Indian civil service. Okay, so this was a great thing, that he is the first person to join the Indian civil service. And the police, assisted the police assisted the collector in maintaining law and order. And then this district was again subdivided. Okay, we came to know that the collector was there to look after the district, and then this district was also subdivided into thanas, and it was managed by darogas. So here district is managed by collector, and the subdivision of the district, which was named as thanas, and it was managed by darogas. Now there were other kotwals and chokidars also in the towns and the villages. Okay, now we will come to know, this is all about the administrative structure, how the power was divided and how these people were looking after the affairs of their local areas. That means the collector was looking after the district, and then there were darogas who were looking after the subdivision of the district when district was divided into thanas. Okay, now we will come to know about the judiciary. Let us see that how did the judiciary function, and what was the judiciary, what type of judiciary was there before the Britishers took into its hand. So before the Britishers, the judiciary system of India was based on the local customs. There were local customs and traditions through which this judiciary was looked after, and there was no uniformity, because as we know that our country was also not bounded into one India. It was also divided into different provisions, and there were different rulers. Okay, so there was no uniformity, and then there was caste system also, and so many other things. So we will not go in detail what was there in the mainly we want to know that it was based on the local customs and traditions. Now in 1772, a new system was introduced where there were two codes, two types of codes. One was the criminal code, and the other code was the civil code. Now which was set up. Okay, these civil courts were presided by the European district collector, and the criminal court was still managed by the Qazis and the Muftis. Okay, Qazi and the Muftis. Then if you see, in 1775 there was a digest of Hindu law, and in 1778 a code of Muslim laws was prepared. Now why these were prepared? Because of the communities, majority of the communities which were there. So the law had to be there, which in which these people would also get the benefit of it. So this Muslim law and the Hindu law was also made. And then in 1883 a law commission was set up to be codified in the Indian law. And then this is all about the judiciary system. Then we will know about the army. Now, what type of army was there, and how did they manage with the, and why this great army was required? Because we know that Britishers, when they had come here as traders, so to protect their trading also, they were using armies. Okay, so the British required large army to defend its trade and expand and defend its territory as well, because now many territories were under the Britishers. And the internal rebellion was also going on. It was not that the entire territory was in peace. The internal rebellion was also going on. So for all these affairs, they needed army. The British army included European soldiers and the Indian sepoys. Now sepoy here was the pronunciation which was made by the Britishers for sipahi. Okay, so it was the Indian who were working under the Britishers army, they were termed as sepoys. Then what was the problem with these sepoys? They could not become high ranked officers. At the most, they could become subedars. And each presidency had its own independent army. So the Britishers, they recruited peasants as sepoys and gave them European style training. They used to train the sepoys so that they could defend properly, okay, with great efficiency. Now from 1820s, the cavalry requirement of the company army started declining, and they had to they were trained to use muskets and matchlocks. Now these muskets and matchlocks, it was nothing else but the two weapons which were used. So here you see the image of muskets, okay, and then this is the image of matchlocks. So what was the difference? The muskets, it was a heavy gun which was used by the infantry soldiers, and this is musket. These were the, it is a heavy gun used by the infantry soldiers, okay. And then this is matchlocks. It was an early type of gun. This was the early type of gun in which the powder was ignited by a match, okay. It was fired by the match. Now this was when the Britishers Indian army was fighting war with Burma, Afghanistan and Egypt. So this type of weapons were used, and with the soldiers being introduced in there was all uniform military culture which was introduced, and everybody had to follow the same discipline. The drill and the discipline was also regulated. It also regulated their life also. And however, there were some problems followed these changes, and there were in our society, what was there in India, there was caste and community feeling also, but these things were not given any type of priority while recruiting in the army. So there was because this professionalism was there among the soldiers, Britishers did not give any priority to the higher community. So you are belonging to higher caste, so you should be given higher post. No such things was there. So there was due to this it was a bit problem over there. There was some problem that was regarding the caste and the community feeling which was there in the among the Indian people. So ultimately this is all what we have studied in this chapter. So if we conclude over here, let us come to the conclusion. Then in 1857 we found that large territories had been directly brought under the Britishers rule. So how it was brought under the Britishers rule, that we have already discussed, that how they came here as traders and then started annexing the territory, and finally the territories were brought under the direct rule of the Britishers. Then the British did in due course of the political dominance freely exploited India. They were freely exploiting India because now there was no such powerful you can say ruler who could stop them from exploiting the India. Then later, this economic exploitation was critically examined by Dadabhai Naoroji. Dadabhai Naoroji, he had written the book Poverty and on British rule in India. In that he had explained that how the Indian were exploited economically to a great extent. Okay, then the British took advantage of the political disunity and established their colonial rule in India. It was only the disunity which was prevailing over there. People were having continuously clashes among. So for that reason, there was a the Britishers took the advantage of this, and then the entire India came under the colonial rule of Britishers. So children, I hope you must have understood the chapter well, and let us see when we will be having our test very shortly. So I'll let you will check yourself through the test that how much you understood. Go through the portion which I have already taught you today, and then answer the questions which I am giving you as homework. Thank you.